Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Dartmouth School Committee to order for Monday, April 22nd, 2024. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'd just like to remind everyone that this meeting is being broadcast by Dartmouth Community Television in partnership with our wonderful television program here at Dartmouth High School. It will be rebroadcast on DCTV Channels 9 on the following days, Wednesday and Thursday at 5 p.m., Friday at 6 a.m., Saturday at 8 a.m., and Sunday at 2 p.m. I do apologize as I get situated into my my role as chair. So roll call, please, Kate.
Chris Oliver.
Here.
Bess Coughlin.
Here.
Mary Beckwith.
Here.
John Nunes.
Yep.
Kathleen Amaral.
Here.
Thank you very much. Just like to remind everyone to please silence your cell phones or any other electronic devices that you may have. At this time, we have allotted 10 minutes for public comment for anyone wishing to speak on behalf of any of tonight's agenda items. So if it's something on the agenda that you would like to speak to, we ask you to keep your comments brief and approach the microphone that's set up here in the front. Seeing no one moving forward, we're going to move on from public comment. Next up, approval of the regular session minutes of April 8th, 2024.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Nunes, a second by Ms. Bess Coughlin. On the motion, any other discussion? Chair hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, Chair will entertain a motion to approve the executive session minutes of April 8th.
So moved, Mr. Chairman, with the stipulation that they be held until the matter for which they were intended is complete.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Nunes, a second by Ms. Amaral. On the motion, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Saban McGuire for a presentation on Project 351.
Great. First, I just want to say how excited I am to have this opportunity this evening to share with you some of the excellent work that has been done through the leadership of both Ross Thibault, and I don't know why I want to call you Senora Chamberlain, not Miss Chamberlain, but that's why. I must hear that as I'm walking the halls of Dartmouth High School. Last summer, if you remember, we attended the MASS Summer Conference, and one of the presentations that we saw while we were there was around Project 351. And there were some students who went up to the stage and spoke to all the superintendents and assistant superintendents in the state, and it was so incredibly impactful. And I remember immediately saying to Katie Paveo, is this something that we're doing in Dartmouth? And we had been doing some work around Project 351 in Dartmouth, but what we were able to do, again, to bring it back and to truly grow it here in Dartmouth is through the work of, again, Mr. Thibault and Senora, how am I doing with that? Pretty good, Chamberlain? And then I have to say, and I've seen these students in action, and today we have, joining us this evening, we have Tia Rad, who I heard was a little nervous, and I don't know why, because I saw you on video this morning, and you were amazing. And also, she partnered with Jesse Walker, and you're going to hear about the work that they did, not only as high school students, but how through the work they did, they were able to impact a good number of middle schoolers. And so I'm going to turn it right over to Mr. Thibault.
Thank you, Dr. Saber McGuire, and thank you to the members of the school committee for this opportunity. I just want to start by saying the outstanding work that Dr. Saber Maguire has alluded to, it wouldn't be possible without a strong team and without the collaboration of so many folks, both at the middle and high school level. So I just wanted to kind of start before, let me start by introducing members of the Playbook Initiative team. So the lead educator was Senora Chamberlain, as Dr. Saber Maguire said. Our lead trainer was Jesse Walker, who unfortunately has a work conflict and can't be here today. However, you're going to hear from him quite a bit because we have a documentary that the DHS TV Media program in partnership with DCTV put together of the Playbook Initiative. So it features Jesse and Tia quite prominently. So even though Jesse can't be here physically, we'll still hear from him. And then I want to introduce Tia Rad, who's a junior here at Dartmouth High School and served as the deputy trainer for our Playbook Initiative. And then I want to also give a huge shout out, and I think you'll see why in a second. You can step forward, Landon. Landon Almeida is a freshman in Mr. Parati's DHS TV Media program. The 8-minute documentary that we're going to show in just a second was entirely edited and produced by Landon. So again, just showing real world, authentic learning that takes place and the strong partnership that we had. So I wanted to recognize Landon and thank him for his work on that. And then everyone will have a chance at the end to speak here. I want to thank Mr. Rossi and Ms. Massari and Ms. Cato Galligan, because at the middle school they were instrumental in helping identify the 30 Dartmouth Middle School students who participated in the program. I also want to thank Mr. Shea and Ms. Xavier for their support here at the high school, because in addition to Jesse and Tia, we also leveraged our Dartmouth High School Mentor Program and had our mentors be instrumental in our 2-day workshop with the middle school students. So again, thank those folks. And then the Playbook Initiative is a partnership between a few different organizations that we want to thank as well. It's Project 351 is one of the parent organizations, the Mass Association of the School Superintendents, and also the Boston Celtics Shamrock Foundation. They're instrumental as well in all of this work. So without further ado, we'll play the documentary and then we'll answer any questions that might be.
Hi, my name is Lily Chamberlain, and I teach Spanish here at Dartmouth High School. I'm also the advisor to the Multicultural Club. I was so happy when Mr. Tebow asked me to be involved with the Playbook Initiative. I didn't really know that much about it at the time, but it's a really cool program that involves students throughout the state working on anti-discrimination work.
The Playbook Initiative is a program designed to leverage the power of sport to engage middle school students on critical societal issues related to race, ethnicity, gender, religion, culture, disability, and orientation. Developed by the 2016-2017 Boston Celtics in partnership with Project 351, the Playbook Initiative uses real-world, authentic scenarios authored by middle school students from Lawrence and North Andover, Massachusetts, to help prepare middle school students to intervene in safe but effective ways when they witness incidents related to discrimination, bias, or hate.
My name is Jesse Walker. I'm 18 years old, a senior here at Dartmouth High. I'm part of the color guard team, and then I serve as captain. I'm the president of the Black Student Union, and I was also able to be the lead trainer for the Dartmouth High Playbook Initiative.
My name is Tia Rad. I'm a junior, and I am vice president of both the Medical Careers Club and the Multicultural Club, and I was a deputy trainer of the Playbook Initiative.
So my why to becoming a Playbook trainer was definitely moving to Dartmouth in 5th grade and coming from a very diverse community, then coming here where it really wasn't as diverse. Just being able to give those middle school students that experience of just like being included in something very special and definitely a serious topic nowadays. And being able to just share my story with those students was one of the main reasons why I wanted to become a Playbook trainer.
So when I first heard about this, I was really moved by it because as a middle schooler, I would have loved to have an opportunity like this, you know, like having someone to look up to and teach us the rights and wrongs of societal issues such as discrimination, gender, sexuality, all that.
Our two-day workshops led by Jesse and Tia were outstanding and certainly prepared our students to intervene should they see any issues related to bias, discrimination, or hate. But more than that, our Dartmouth Middle School Playbook teammates also got guided tours of Dartmouth High School and got to see what a day at Dartmouth High School is like through the lens of a student. They got tours of the building, saw some of the outstanding areas that Dartmouth High School has to offer. They also experienced lunch in our dining hall. And most importantly, they got to talk directly with Dartmouth High School mentors who provided them critical information to help them get plugged in and help them transition to Dartmouth High School in the coming years.
So one of the activities I facilitated was an activity called Agree, Disagree, Unsure. It was an activity where we presented a number of statements to our middle schoolers and they had to pick whether they agree, disagree, or were unsure of the statement that they were given. That game really just helps get them thinking, and it's really nice to hear their perspectives on it. And other people sometimes they tend to change their mind once they hear other people's opinions.
It was pretty surprising because there were really strong answers, and it was definitely topics that I know some high schoolers wouldn't be able to really answer truthfully, even maybe some educators, because it was definitely some challenging topics. So just seeing how like vulnerable they were to just sharing what their opinions were was inspiring.
So we spent the day in Boston. Me and Jesse were invited as trainers to participate in a day-long training in the Celtics practice area. And that whole day was really just based on how to be trainers, more empowering trainers. And not to mention, Dartmouth was one of 28 schools across the Commonwealth that was picked to be in this initiative. And we got to spend the day doing reflection games, games that we would do to our middle schoolers, and we had the opportunity to be trained by the Celtics' Drew Holiday.
We got to meet many educators and high school students from Massachusetts who were really engaged in the situation and just really wanted to share their story. We also got to meet Lieutenant Governor Driscoll, and we got to meet her and hear her outtake on the Playbook Initiative, which was pretty cool.
So we hope that the Playbook Initiative doesn't stop with the two-day workshops. We hope it's work that's going to continue. Certainly we hope our Dartmouth Middle School teammates feel empowered to intervene should they witness any unfortunate situations related to discrimination, bias, or hate. But more than that, we're going to be traveling to the middle school to help them plan a day of action in follow-up to the work that they did with Jesse and Tia. And so our early thoughts on that are that they might plan a day of no hate, or certainly create an opportunity for Dartmouth Middle School students to take a pledge of no hate, very similar to the outstanding work that our Black Student Union has done here at Dartmouth High School.
I hope that we can continue this for many years to come, because it seems like whenever we do one of these, the kids always leave knowing more knowledge and more information than they started out with, and that way we can start to see less discrimination and less hate.
Yeah, going forward from the past few trainings into like the future of Playbook for Dartmouth High, I definitely feel as though those students who were able to take the trainings with us, they were definitely inspired, and I know like I've seen them in person a few times, and like they're very excited. So I hope that from now into like the future, they just continue that message of like belonging and acceptance, especially going into high school. I know it can be very overwhelming, and it's a whole new environment filled with a lot of people. So just having that confidence, being like, I belong here, it's definitely going to be great.
As the superintendent of the Dartmouth Public Schools, I couldn't be any prouder of the work being done by these student leaders. Dartmouth is one of a select group of communities in the state selected for this prestigious opportunity, and I look forward to seeing the impact of this work on the Dartmouth community.
So again, thank you to Landon for his outstanding work producing and editing that documentary. I know it was several hours of work to put together that 8-minute documentary, but I think the quality of the video speaks for itself. So Landon, thank you again, and excellent job. I also did want to recognize one other student from Mr. Parati's program, which is Ava Cabral. She's, again, collaboration being key here. She collaborated with Landon. She's responsible for the graphics that you saw throughout the documentary. So thank you to Ava for her work. So after the 2 days, we surveyed our middle school students and just asked them to give us one highlight of their experience here at the high school. And you see up on the screen now some of the feedback we got. But essentially what the middle school students reported was that they loved the workshop that Tia and Jesse ran for them. They loved the scenario-based discussions that they had, but they also definitely appreciated the mentors and being able to speak to our high school students directly, get tours of the building, and just see that the high school is not the scary place that maybe middle school students often think it is. So that was a definite win as well. And then just want to recognize these are the 16 Dartmouth High mentors who over those 2 days were either part of the panel presentation or part of the tours, or both. Many of them did both. And so again, thank you to Ms. Xavier for recruiting our mentors, and thank you to each of these mentors for giving of their time to make the experience worthwhile for our middle school teammates. And then finally, the last thing before I turn it over to Tia and Senora Chamberlain for any questions that the committee might have, I do want to also just expound on a point that Dr. Saber McGuire made and Tia alluded to in the documentary, which is that Dartmouth Public Schools was one of 28 communities across the Commonwealth that was selected. But that doesn't do true justice for the context. There were 100 communities that wanted to be part of it. And so there were several communities that were returning to the Playbook Initiative, and there were, I think about half of them were new. So that really kind of shows that, you know, being selected to be part of this work is an honor in and of itself. So that being said, I will turn it over to Tia and Senora Chamberlain to answer any questions folks might have.
Program and a great presentation as well. But I'll turn it over to my colleagues first for any comments or questions that you may have.
Sure. So Tia, did you see yourself as a leader before you started this?
Well, I feel like I've definitely gained some leadership experience from this. Being able to talk to kids younger than me definitely has given me that experience that I hopefully will carry on later in life.
Well, I see you as a leader now. I think what you did is amazing. I'd love to know some of the questions, yes, no, maybe, like what were they? Yeah. Can I take the course, the workshop?
So, for example, like we would use questions that really were like connected to sensitive topics, such as there was one about that there are gender norms that girls should be playing with dolls and boys should be playing with trucks, and that they should enforce those norms. Mm-hmm.
Great. And then my last question, although I probably have more, but so what made Dartmouth stand out? I don't know if you know the answer or you know the answer to that, to be picked out of 100 schools.
Mr. Tebow knows the answer to that.
So the answer is Jesse Walker and Tia Rad. That is the answer. And Dr. Saber McGuire and I were at, I think it was the Mass Mask Conference, and we were pulled aside by one of the founders of Project 351, who talked about how moved they were. Because one of the things that you don't see in the documentary is we had to apply to be part of this. And the application were essays written by Tia and Jesse, myself, and Senora Chamberlain. But what Carol, who was one of the Project 351 founders, said was that they were just so struck by Jesse and Tia's responses. You had to share your why and why you were motivated to be part of this work. And so they are the answers to that question.
Can I just say one thing about that? When I read what they wrote on their applications, their answers really brought tears to my eyes. I mean, they were just so honest and vulnerable in what they said about things that they had experienced and things that they hoped they could help other kids deal with. So it was really great.
Yep.
Tia, how many middle school students were involved?
There were about 30 middle school students.
And did you get any kind of pushback or negative response from any of them? And how did you deal with that if you did?
To be honest with you, I don't think we really got any negative pushback or feedback from them. They were all really interested in learning how to decrease the hate.
And what is needed to keep this going for an ongoing program?
I feel like not only like leaders and me and Jesse, but also the same kind of students that were brought to us to really make this happen, because their effort and dedication to all of this is really what made all of it possible.
Thank you.
My turn. How am I supposed to follow this up?
I know.
Wow. Tia, can you give me one or two highlights that you took away from this program?
I feel like, as repeating myself again, definitely it's made me a better leader. Like, I've picked up more communication skills and more leadership skills than before. And I really want to say, like, some of the games that we facilitated really stuck out to me. Like the one I mentioned in the video, the agree, disagree, unsure. I feel like it's a great way to get the students thinking and having that opportunity to listen to their peers.
And what I found, and I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget, is it's interesting, instead of you mentioning the state of Massachusetts, you mentioned the Commonwealth, which is what we are. And how did that come up, you know?
I'm going to be honest with you, it was actually Mr. Tebow who gave me the idea to say that.
You know?
Yeah.
That's absolutely, no,
But I've
perfect.
definitely heard the word, like, numerous times brought up, so.
Congratulations, and to the young man that put this all together, boy, nice job. It's, you know, I mean, to be a freshman and do this, I mean, I quickly think of a couple of our students that are not long graduated from here that are gone on to and things of that nature, you know, in the film and TV end of it. So good luck, nice job.
Great. What more can I add? I guess one question I would have is to expound upon Mary's question. Are there identified students in lower grades who might or who have shown an interest in taking on this? I know you'll be a senior next year, so you're still here, but are there students sort of in the wings interested in participating and learning more to continue this project on?
So, are you referring to high school for trainers? Okay, yeah. So when all let's say, for example, all my friends heard about this opportunity and they were like, wow, this is so cool, and I just love what you're doing, like educating these students on these issues because they're happening in real life now. Many of them have been like, oh, like, please, like, let me know if there's like an open spot or anything so I can do this too.
And I wanted to express my, it's wonderful to see the product that you put together, Landon, to engage, and inform the community on this, so that you should be very proud of yourself as a freshman to have put this together. That's incredible. And then to Tia, you mentioned that you all, sort of separate but related, that you are part of the medical career club, or you lead that, or are part of. So am I right to assume that you have an interest in moving forward in some medical-related field, potentially?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
I love to hear more about that, because it's just so important to bring in that aspect of health equity. When I think about the COVID pandemic, and as a parent of a young man who has significant disabilities, just standards of crisis for care in terms of who gets what first, and how do we prioritize health access for people who are vulnerable and unable to do that for themselves. I can see that you as a leader might take that forward, and I'd love to hear more about your thoughts about what you envision for your future career.
Well, I feel like participating in this Playbook initiative, it's really given me a look at really what type of doctor I want to be, what type of medical career I want to pursue. I definitely want to be a person who works with vascular neurology. And I feel like, so I'm from Lebanon, that's my ethnicity, and I feel like the healthcare over there isn't really as good as it should be. And I'm hoping to travel there and help the people over there.
That's fantastic. I just received an email from my children's pediatric provider, and the head of the practice is traveling to a different country over the summer to do just that. So I know there are wonderful opportunities for that. So congratulations and good luck to you. Thank you.
Well, first of all, it's just amazing to hear it sounds like from this experience here, the type of person that you're growing into at Dartmouth High School. So congratulations on that, and congratulations to everyone for the amount of skills that were used to not only put together the video, to put together these trainings. There's something to be said about what's happening here at Dartmouth High School. So thank you to all of you. I do have a couple of questions. One being, once we're in the program, are we automatically in it year after year, or do we have to apply every year, and how does that work?
So, Tia, will you share what you said to me this morning when we were walking up to Ms. Chamberlain's room about your hope for next year?
Yeah, so I hope next year, obviously, we can carry this on, but every single year you want to be a part of this initiative, you obviously have to write essays and you have to answer certain questions that they ask in order to get accepted. And again, me, Jesse, Mr. Tebow, and Senora Chamberlain write these.
Okay. And is this safe to say that some of the questions will revolve around how the program went the previous year?
Definitely, yes.
So they've already put out a survey as well to ask for feedback. So we completed that. And one of the questions was whether or not you were interested in participating again in the upcoming school year. And so we indicated that we were. So,
Paul, once again, on behalf of everyone here on the board, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's very impressive.
Congratulations.
thank you.
Not going to be able to.
Continuing on, Dr. Saban McGuire, district entry plan findings.
So that's how I'm going to top that. We're going to talk about the entry findings of a year-long process to learn as much as we could about the Dartmouth Public Schools. But obviously, when I think about Project 351 and I think about what I've learned about the Dartmouth schools. Like, it fits right into everything that we're going to talk about this evening. And when you talked about, or when you asked the question about, are we going to continue with this kind of work? Yes. And I think that what you'll find as we talk about our entry findings this evening is this is the exact kind of work that we do with students that fits into what we found out about the school district. So it's actually provides a perfect segue into talking about the entry findings. And I want to say it's been almost a year, and maybe exactly a year, since I was appointed to the Dartmouth superintendent position, and I'm so grateful that I'm here, and I've learned so much. And I have to thank my team, because this past year, when I think about when I first came to you and talked about what the process was going to be for entry finding, you know, I was kind of on an island, and I can say at the end of this process, I feel like I have such a strong team around me, and every one of them has been part of the presentation and some of the information that we're going to share with you tonight. None of this is going to be new to you. I think you all, from what I've gotten to know the school committee members, and Mary, certainly you're new to me, but I feel like I already have a good idea of what you're interested in and what you know about the Dartmouth schools. So I think this is just going to be sort of a compilation of things you know, but it gives us an opportunity to have some next steps. And with that, I actually am going to invite the rest of the central office leadership team to come up to the podium, because I am not doing this presentation on my own. They are going to help me along. Which is really, I think, so important, because I love that I've shared this slide with you at the beginning of the year when I talked about ethics of an organization and what my belief is around how we behave as an ethical organization, and how that can, in fact, be done both through the way that we're going to present entry findings, and then what we as a community are going to do to act on the findings that we're going to present with you tonight. So I still, I hold true to this. I love that I got to add this photograph. I shared this with my coach from the new superintendent induction program. She's probably watching. If you are, thanks, Maureen. And one of the things that I'm really excited, it gives you so much just energy to look at something like the opportunities that our students have around. I mean, those are sailboats. There's a sailing club here. And there are lots of, there are some, so there's the work, and then there's sailing. And the kids that have which is work, right? So this is just, to me, a way to honor the kind of opportunities that kids in Dartmouth have. And so, as I've said about ethics of an organization, and I'm going to keep talking about them throughout this entire process and as we move on, but it is through these 5 commitments, and it's through this that we present to you the findings of what really truly has been a year-long exploration of the Dartmouth schools. It's important to note that ethic of community is always at the center of the work that we do, and I believe you'll find that these ethics are embedded throughout the presentation and some of the information that we'll share with you. So again, always, why entry plan? Why do we take the time to do this? There's a purpose for this. And the purpose is not only for me to gain an understanding of the Dartmouth community and its current state, and then think about areas of strength and areas of growth. It's about us as a team and us as a community. So this entry plan process, although initiated through the new superintendent induction program, and certainly something that I was committed to, in the end, this ends up being a community of findings. And so here are the phases of the entry plan. And again, you've been to my office, or most of you have had. This is up on my whiteboard. I look at it constantly. My team looks at it constantly. And the reason for that is because it keeps us grounded in what our work is for this year and where we're focused. One of the interesting things for me in thinking about the phases is when I originally put them up on the board, they were so like they seemed static to me. So I would say, oh, April to October, I'm going to be doing this. August to such and such a date, and phase 3, November to, I think it was originally January. What I also was really glad about is that I used dry erase marker because, for those dates, because I was constantly erasing them and putting new dates in, and having the grace to be able to do that, I think, was important. At the end of this, here we are in phase 4, where we're drafting a report, we're presenting the findings, we're literally right in that phase right now. But what I recognize at the end of this is this really isn't a linear process. This is truly a continuous process, and eventually, as we talked about this in our team today, we can envision this as being something that becomes a cyclical symbol and something that you'll be hearing us talk about over the course of really the entire strategic planning process, and then those next steps in the enactment of that process. And so here are some of, and I say some of, and I mean that, but some of the data artifacts that we've used throughout this process. It's not exhaustive, but it gives you sort of those high-level, that high-level information that we use. Surveying was really important to us. I'm really grateful again to the team around me who helped to disseminate that survey and to sort of make it in digestible and understandable kind of information that we're going to share with you tonight, because that's what you're going to hear from us as we start to present our actual findings. They are based in this data. So I think, again, important to point out, we were reviewing documents, the budget, prior school committee meetings. I think some of you laughed at me when I told you I watched your school committee meetings from a year ago when I wasn't here, and actually went back a little further. So I think Jim has teased me about that a few times, saying that maybe I need, a different program to watch at home. But important things to help to understand really what the context of the community is, not in just the now, but the history is critical. And so from there, we were able to look at, again, all of those data artifacts, and a lot of what we learned, again, was about being out and talking to people. But what we found is that we were able to frame the major themes and findings in 4 major categories. And you can see that here where we're talking about teaching and learning, of course, the most important work that we do. It's the reason that we exist. And at the same time, we understand that teaching and learning can't be effective without safe and supportive schools. And that the family and community engagement in supporting our schools and our students is critical to the success of our schools and our students and our teachers and everybody who is committed to the success of the Dartmouth schools. And we can't do it without a real commitment to the budget and to capital improvements. And so those are the major themes that we called out, and under each of them you'll hear us talk about under teaching and learning, academic achievement, curriculum and instruction and technology, how professional development supports those areas. You'll hear us talk about safety and security, extracurricular opportunities, key, and I think tonight there were, so many great examples of that happening in Dartmouth in just the last really 45 minutes that I've been in this high school. And then how all of those things work together, or how that all works to support the social emotional development of our students. Under family and community engagement, you'll hear us talk about community engagement, and beyond that, community, and then beyond community, stakeholder engagement that might not necessarily exist here within Dartmouth, but have some connection to the Dartmouth community. How are we leveraging communication, collaboration, and community expectations? And you'll hear us talk about that in some detail. Under budget, we've been talking about budget for a while, so I think this is going to be pretty much, people are going to know every word that Mr. Kiley is going to say this evening, but we are going to, but it has to be part of the overall report and what we're finding, because it is critical. We'll talk about enrollment changes building compliance issues, safety regulations, and certainly aging infrastructure. Again, as I said at the beginning, none of this is going to be new or earth-shattering, but it's just a way for us to bring it all together. For our foundation, we have diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging as literally being the foundation of all of this work. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging does not belong in any one of those boxes. It belongs in each one of them. It is something that has to exist in your community, not as an afterthought, but as the through line for all of the work we do, and I think we'll be able to connect that to each of our findings as we work through our presentation. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Katie and Ross, and they're going to talk about our findings connected to teaching and learning.
Thank you, Dr. Saber-McGuire. Katie and I were just joking that our favorite thing you've said so far is that teaching and learning is the most important work that goes on in a district, so maybe we could stop there. So our dedicated educators have implemented innovative teaching methods to foster a dynamic and engaging learning environment. The education landscape's ever evolving, and Dartmouth schools are dedicated to embracing change. Our commitment to adaptability and innovation ensures that we provide a forward-thinking education that prepares students for the challenges and opportunities of the future. And normally we wouldn't read off the screen to you, but that statement we decided to read because that really encapsulates all of the teaching and learning work that is going on in the district. And so I think it's critically important that we, number one, recognize that we have outstanding educators, and number two, recognize that they're working in a world that is ever evolving and ever changing, and that puts opportunities in front of them. It also places challenges and stress as well to be adaptable and innovative. So some of our achievement, we looked at, as Dr. Saber-McGuire said, we looked at a variety of different data sources, different artifacts, and what we have here are some of the achievement findings or analysis. And the first one is just that while in comparison to the state, Dartmouth public schools, we do fairly well, right? And that's true at the high school level, particularly when we look at the graduation rates. So while high school graduation rates are above the state average for the all students subgroup, discrepancies exist between our all students group and our high needs student groups, particularly those of students with disabilities and low incomes. And so we want to, name that and kind of hang a sign on it, as we say. But I also just want to make sure that everyone understands high needs is defined as the state as including students with disabilities, students who are classified as low income, any student who is a current or former English language learner as well. So those different subgroups make up that high needs subgroup. So I just want to make sure everyone has a shared understanding of that. Another finding related to achievement is that discipline data indicates a disproportionate number of disciplinary actions taken against select student populations, highlighting potential disparities in disciplinary practices. So again, warranting further examination. The lights are going out.
The lights are going out. And so, when we look at our MCAS scores, we're looking at about half of our students who are in that meeting or exceeding the standards category, which also means that there's a fraction, about 50%, 49% of our students who fall into that partially or not meeting expectations. And if you look at our data, we are really actually sort of smushed in the middle, right? So we have some work to do, about we talk about shifting to the right. We want to get our kids who are meeting standards to be exceeding standards. We want our kids who are partially meeting into that meeting category. We're trying to move our students to the right. We do a fair amount of data collection in the elementary level, which is sort of my world. I'll talk about DIBELS data and STAR data and classroom data, because for as important as MCAS is, ELA MCAS is 2 days out of a student's life. Right, and so we have to remember that it's one snapshot. It's a very important snapshot, but it is one snapshot, and we try to look at the children in a broader context. Our leaders understand that achievement data can and should be improved, and they are committed to that. And it's hard sometimes to talk about these because it sounds like we're pointing out things that are wrong. And I love that phrase that Mr. Tebow used, and I use that a lot. And I say we're just hanging a sign on what is, right? It's not good, it's not bad. It just is what it is, and it's the truth. And we have to take a good hard look at it and talk about where we go from here. And so this is just that look at what is. And so we look at subgroup data as an area of concern, but also to find the glimmers of hope in that. I do a lot of work talking about, if you look at our high needs report in MCAS data, when you look at our subgroups versus our aggregate, there are some disparities. If you look at our subgroups versus other subgroups in the state, they're really holding their own, and in some cases really exceeding what other subgroups, similar subgroups in the state are doing. So it's a matter of looking at the data to find what we need to find from it to make improvements, but also to celebrate the wins, and there are certainly lots of those to be had, which you'll talk a little bit more about.
So this slide probably looks familiar because we've shown it in a few different presentations at this point. But what it really does is highlight Dartmouth more than holds its own in terms of DART districts. Those are, again, districts that have similar demographics to Dartmouth, and they're identified by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education so that you can kind of get some context for your performance. And so this achievement, again, this data just highlights that Dartmouth does get a pretty good return on investment in terms of achievement.
And so when we look at some of the other factors that come into teaching and learning, certainly a large part of our work goes around curriculum and curricular resources. And what we're doing in our classrooms is certainly standards-based, but there is a need for updated, high-quality instructional materials, research-based, high-quality materials in several of our content areas. And the lack of that can probably be a little bit of what we look at when we look at why are we not attaining the scores that maybe we want to be attaining, particularly in the area of science, which was certainly an area that we took a hit in and has historically been an area of strength for us. So we've talked a lot about some of the work that we do at the elementary level. We have core curricular teams. At the secondary level, Dr. Tebow has lead teachers here at the high school. There are instructional coaches that are working with our staff, so we're very proud of the work that we're doing, but we know that there's a need to continue to look at it.
One of the other pieces of information we should highlight is that, the slide says teaching and learning feedback. This is rooted in the feedback that we received from our educators. Dr. Saber-McGuire alluded to surveying being a key part. We surveyed throughout the course of the year, mostly in the fall when Dr. Saber-McGuire visited each school. We surveyed our faculty and asked them for feedback around different topics. And so this next piece here around professional development, you can see where there are direct quotes. That's some of the qualitative feedback that we collected from faculty members, and really it highlights the need for personalized and relevant professional development that is specific to the educator's role within Dartmouth Public Schools. And that's, some of the quotes there kind of showed up in the feedback as themes because they were similar in nature to one another. Instructional technology.
I'm not going to steal Mr. Galshaw's thunder, but I was just going to say that long gone are the days where curriculum lives over here and technology lives over here, and never the two shall meet. So we do a lot of conversing and looking at the need to continually upgrade and update our technology in the world that we live in, because it's a part of the kids' everyday lives, and it's really needs to be not a separate thing that they're doing, but integrated into all of the things that they're doing.
And a lot of those allocations come from choice money, and we appreciate that, but it's not as sustainable, as we've talked about, to be able to keep up with the needs of the technology. So, and there's future needs of updates, and also the insatiable appetite that the kids have for technology. So it's always important to keep up with.
Oh, no. The animations did not. I'm going to have Mr. Parati come out and talk to him about the fact that the animations did not work. This was supposed to be the highlight where each of the pictures popped in. I know. Well, we'll have to.
We're out as favorites. Sorry.
So at any rate, these are the competencies that have been identified by the district strategic planning team through our development of Portrait of a Learner. And again, it wasn't that team's vision for what the Portrait of a Learner should look like. That involved input from all stakeholders within the community. We surveyed educators, elected officials, parents and families and caregivers, students at the secondary level. So these were the 5 competencies that were identified as being critically important to our students' future. And what we wanted to do was to put a picture to those competencies, because yes, they're aspirational, but they are also happening already in our classrooms, beyond our classrooms, in a variety of different ways. And so the critical thinker and problem solver, you can see that's a picture there of 2 elementary students who are collaborating with one another, thinking critically, and doing some kind of a sorting activity where they had to think about what belonged where, and that kind of a thing. Communicator, I don't think he needs any introduction. That's Ben Smith, but he is speaking to the entire student body, 1,000 students at a pep rally. And that's the unified sports team behind him. So again, showing that as a communicator, that's not just something that happens in the classroom, happens, both within and beyond the classroom. Continuous learner, those are a few of our the 16 mentors I mentioned earlier tonight. That's just 3 of those 16. That was the panel presentation. Again, thinking of this idea of continuous learning, they're drawing on their experience when they were 8th graders and transitioned to 9th grade, and now they're paying that forward and sharing it with our 7th and 8th graders who are visiting the high school. Contributing citizen, that picture is from the Playbook Initiative. Those are some of our middle school teammates who were part of the Playbook Initiative and dealing with societal issues that are just so important. And then finally, collaborator, that young lady on top of the pyramid, if there's not a high level of collaboration there, probably doesn't want to be in that position, right? So we thought that this would really help kind of bring an image to see that these are competencies that are in place that we're doing in a number of different ways here in the Dartmouth Public Schools.
All right, so our next theme that we have is safe and supportive schools. So as you can see, there are pictures of kids feeling supported and safe to be able to express themselves, but a lot of this information was gathered through survey data from students and caregivers, community, and family members. So, and as you can see, student data indicates a strong sense of belonging in Dartmouth schools. Students generally feel as though educators care about them and are invested, which is why we're all here, is to care about students and be invested in their education. So it's good that they feel that, and that means we're doing our job. Some of the data displayed here is from a survey that was completed by the high school students, and you can see that it shows an overwhelming amount of students who feel that they belong at DHS, and that if they're absent, there is a staff member in the building who notices and will ask when they next see them, where they were or if they're okay. And then data collected from families and caregivers and high school students indicate a strong sense of belonging that exists within the Dartmouth Public Schools. It highlights that there are trusted and caring professionals within all of our schools, and it indicates that the families, caregivers, and students feel as though that the students are treated fairly by our faculty and our staff.
Mr. Galashaw.
I wanted to speak to the supportive and safe schools. I do a lot of work with the fire department, police department, DCTV, and the town in regards to some of the security measures we have in the school, such as the cameras, and of course, even observing what they do in schools with the multiple safety drills that they have at all levels. And the resource officers and the regular presence of our town offices with our school is a great relationship. So it's always safe and supportive schools are an important thing to Dartmouth, and we do a lot of things together so that we have good relations with all our town offices, including the technology that we share between these places, such as the video cameras being accessed through the police department so that they can keep an eye on things and keep us safe in that in regards to that, or any of the drills where we have town-wide communication systems or the ability to tap into intercoms within buildings and phones for better communication during emergencies.
So as you hear often, school doesn't end at 2:03 or whatever time they get out here. The kids at the high school are very plugged in. The data shows us that even though there are only 1,800 students at the middle school and high school levels, 2,048 of them are involved in after-school activities. So people are doing more than one thing, right? So people are very involved. However, that only exists in middle school and high school. Those opportunities aren't available for our elementary students. So we really need to look at the equity in which we are providing these opportunities for students.
As far as, again, we talked about family and community engagement. We know that the schools are the center of the Dartmouth community. We know that. We know that as we drive through this community. We know that by all of the activity that's taking place around your elementary schools, around your middle school, and certainly your high school, which is almost 24/7 literally because of all the trips that they're taking and the times that they leave and the times that they return. So we know that, and these are, just really, this is so incredibly important to the district. This year, we do believe we've seen some increased collaboration and engagement between parents, staff, and local organizations, and that together we're committed to building a solid support network that contributes to the overall well-being of our students and community. And when we think about our stakeholders, that's going to involve a lot of, different opportunities for us to engage beyond maybe sometimes what we're normally doing or have done. The family forum, although somebody, mentioned it wasn't well attended, it might not have been well attended, but it was well seen and well received. And I know by some of the views that people did watch it. I mean, it was streamed, and I know that people were interested in what we were doing. We look forward, again, I don't mean to jump ahead because these are the findings, but these are things that were things that we were immediately able to put into place, and it also served the purpose of informing our entry findings. So that was an important opportunity to bring families in and then do some surveying with them with Teaching Learning Alliance, who actually did bring a group together right after the forum was done to collect some information that now is data that we're using in our strategic planning. I love, there you see the cheerleaders at the, that's them at the Council for Aging. That was something that was really fun, and it was special, and it's not something that we want to see be one-offs. These are things that we want to see that are opportunities and experiences that are embedded in the community. So some of the findings that we collected through, it's really hard for me to see that far, but so let me see if I can blow this one up. So is that school-based, we heard from families. This is data that we collected and now we're sharing out, that school-based administrators are accessible and approachable for students and family caregivers, that the district leadership team's decisions align with the best interest of students. Then from parents, my children, families, my children, school offers sufficient support and resources for student mental health and social emotional well-being. Families believe that there is at least one trusted adult at the school who knows their child or children well and assists them in meeting their goals, and that the schools foster a sense of belonging and community among students. The district leadership team does promote diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging within the district itself, and that leadership is responsive to the needs of families and to caregivers. Remember, this is the high-level data that we collected through parent surveys, student surveys, teacher surveys, and other educators here in the Dartmouth community. And so an important segue from Mr. Kiley is to talk about how does the budget and capital improvement support all of that and serve as our foundation.
Thank you, Dr. Saber-Maguire. So, how do we strive to meet the community's expectations regarding our schools? This pie chart isn't new to most of you. We've talked about it a lot. Boy, we've had a lot of budget presentations this year in which this was included. But to remind everyone, 3/4 of our funding is spent directly on instructional costs. 12% is spent on music, athletics, other student activities, transportation, and school health offices. Maintenance and utilities are 7% of our budget, and you'll see administration is 2%. So staffing is about 80% overall of our budget. So we're in the people business. We're helping kids grow. So it takes a lot of staff to do that, and our money is spent accordingly in what we think is the appropriate places. Dr. Saber-Maguire, would you mind advancing
sorry
that?
about that.
That's okay. So a little bit about the budget and capital improvements findings. So we found common themes. Most of the responses understood that we have limitations in funding essential programs and maintaining the current level of service. We talked a lot about that in planning for FY25 and beyond. Limited funding restricts our ability to address needs, including facility upgrades. Our buildings are aging. They require extensive repairs, eventual replacement. We've talked about some of that through this process of capital improvements and long-term capital planning. We've faced some declines in student enrollment. Yes, that's true. But at the same time, the needs of our students are increasing significantly. So over the last 10 years, you may recall in the budget process, we showed that our high needs population had increased from 29% to 43% of our students. So it's a significant portion of our students, and we certainly need to support them. So family, we also found some nice feedback. It's always nice to hear that families in the community believe that we effectively manage our financial resources. If you recall, our spending is low. It's 270th of 322 districts, statewide, or Commonwealth-wide, should I say, Mr. Notes. Our staffing levels are below Commonwealth average in every category. And, but as Mr. Tebow said, I think that type of data is indicative of having an exceptional return on our investment. Still, it's also indicative of a fairly low investment. So those are the things that came up through our process here in regards to budget and capital improvement findings.
Thank you, Mr. Kiley. And so what we were able to do is kind of go back to the beginning of our presentation when we talked about how we had categorized our data into 4 different areas under teaching and learning, safe and supportive schools, family and community engagement, budget and capital improvements. And we do believe we gave you quite a bit of information in those slides, that there is a detailed written report that you'll also be receiving that has more data that will be, I think, much denser, but we pulled some of that the high-level data out. And at the same time, we thought it would be a good idea just to share with you some of the analysis of the major themes and findings that we saw across all 4 of those areas. And we organized that. Some of you have probably, I'm sure you've heard of SWOT analysis. So we kind of changed that and we made it our own Dartmouth analysis, and we're calling it SCORE. And because we wanted to really organize our findings around positive attributes and things that we can do rather than think about it through the lens of negativity. So we're talking about strengths, challenges, opportunities, and risks, and we're calling it SCORE. So we should trademark that. I know that Mr. Galashaw is really good at that. Hopefully no one's already done it. So we just wanted to give you kind of like an overview of what our analysis is of the major themes and findings. And under strengths for teaching and learning, we have academic achievement of the Dartmouth students. That's a real strength for us to build off of. And although we shared some other information about the fact that we do have work to do, that is such a great place to be building from. And so great job by the educators here and the commitment that they have to kids. And so what's the challenge for us? It's how are we using data and what is the access that we're providing to our educators and our students around high quality instructional materials and instructional technology that can drive instruction. We know that that is something that we are really committed to looking at and providing to our educators. So what are some opportunities that we have under teaching and learning? What's around professional development? You saw that professional development's an area that teachers are really interested in, and it came up a lot across our surveys. But how does that professional development support them in the implementation of the resources? Because it's not okay to hand teachers new resources and not give them the support and the ongoing support they need to be able to implement those resources effectively. So under safe and supportive schools, again, strengths. Most Dartmouth students feel a real sense of belonging and well-being in the school. And as a matter of fact, like that was a real highlight throughout all of the data that we looked at. That is real here. Some students, though, do struggle to access and participate in the greater school community. And it's, it's okay, but it's what are we doing about that? Or how are we now thinking about ways that we can engage students who may not have that real sense of connection that most students here in Dartmouth do? And again, what's our opportunity there is to provide additional access for student participation in all levels of pre-K to 12, the pre-K to 12 experience. We've seen that, and you'll see that again in the detailed report, that is an area of challenge for Dartmouth, and that is all those extracurricular activities that exist here, making sure that we're looking at that across all grade levels. Under family and community engagement, a real strength for us is that the Dartmouth schools are the hub of the community, and there's such a great sense of pride in this community. I love walking around here regardless of where I am, whether it's during the school day or if I'm here on a community event, if I'm in a local store, a local restaurant, everybody's wearing their Dartmouth green. And I wear mine constantly, and people make fun of me. So I just want you to know that it's something that I feel a sense of and feel proud to be able to display that in that way. So there are families in the community that are disconnected from the schools, and that kind of goes back to some students struggling to connect. So what kind of work are we doing, and how are we inviting those families into the conversation? And one of the opportunities there is to bolster interactions and seek multiple ways to engage all families and stakeholder groups. And so again, those are the kinds of things you think about through strategic planning. Under budget and capital improvements, strength is that the school department has financial expertise, strong budgetary practices, and transparency. And you've heard me talk about the work that Jim does around this, and that is real, and that did come out through other data, not just us saying it. And I know you know this. This is a strength for the Dartmouth community. That the challenges that the district is experiencing increased costs, and the town is struggling to keep up with the pace of those costs. And so there's an opportunity in all of this for us to invite and strengthen the school department, town government, and residents to create a joint vision that meets the needs of the entire school community. We used risks sort of at the bottom as our foundation, not to replace diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, but instead to say Dartmouth is at a financial crossroads right now. That's something that I think everybody in the community recognizes, and that solutions must be found to ensure the continued viability and sustainability of the community's commitment to excellence. And I connect that back to our work around diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging by saying, again, remember that's the through line through all of this. And so when one area is weakened, then that's where you start to see issues around whether we're addressing equity, whether we're able to provide the inclusive experiences that we strive to be able to provide in this community. And so that's sort of like the different categories, but here we just put together one slide that gives a synopsis to some degree of the entire presentation. And that is that a strength of this district, and one that I hope that people walk away with thinking about, because it's incredibly important, is that we have a dedicated teaching staff committed to providing students with an exemplary education. When you have that kind of strength, you can meet the kind of challenges around aging infrastructure, budget constraints, curriculum resources, teacher leadership opportunities. Why is it always that the challenges list is longer than the strength list? We could have probably put a few more in there. And communication gaps. Facility upgrades and improvements need to be planned. Resources need to be allocated around opportunities. We see many opportunities for strategic partnerships with higher education institutions. We started to do that. Just again, we've just tipped our toe into that right at this point. There's a lot more that we can be doing, thinking about how local businesses can support us, other community groups, and other additional resources. Mr. Kiley and I just met with somebody from the sailing, what was the name? It was the sailing. Community sailing, and they were wonderful, and they want to partner with us to provide our students with some opportunities that will allow them to understand, to learn about, and to understand what sailing is, and maybe provide some opportunities to do some coding, to build sail boats that they can then take out, not onto the water, but they can control from the beach, and just lots of really amazing opportunities that are right here in Dartmouth. And the risks are around limited financial resources and potential enrollment declines. And I talked earlier about some of the work that we had done with NESDEC, and at a future meeting, Mr. Kiley and I hope to present some of those findings to you so that the community has an understanding of what how enrollment will be impacted in Dartmouth really over the next decade. And so finally, we wanted to close with something that we think is positive, and this is where we think we are. This is a journey. That's always a journey of continuous improvement to create a learning environment where all students thrive academically and socially, emotionally. We're committed to upholding ethical ideas and working collaboratively with stakeholders toward a future of excellence that celebrates diversity, equity, inclusivity, and creating a sense of belonging. And that's exemplified by what the vision is here around One Dartmouth. And so we're happy to present this and to thank you for your patience and listening to us talk about it all year long, and promise that eventually we would be able to come to you and present it, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Well, first of all, Dr. Saban-Maguire, thank you for this presentation. Thank you to your entire team for highlighting these positives and some challenges, we'll say. And what comes across for me with your presentation is enthusiasm. Yes. I hear enthusiasm in which we want to make changes for the better in this district. We know there's work to be done, but this is a great start, I believe. And before I say anything else,
I just like to point out that that's the class of 2025, so there's our future for next year. So I'm not sure of that.
I love it.
So you could see that.
Thank you. Ms. Zamorel?
Sure, I'll start. I had the pleasure of meeting with Dr. Saban McGuire quite a bit this past year as a former chair, and really love her enthusiasm and her, commitment to the work. Earlier we talked about young students being vulnerable and showing leadership skills. I do believe that the way in which you've made an effort to bring to life a lot of what is happening on the ground by having folks come and talk about it rather than you talking about the stuff, having the people that are doing it come and talk about the stuff, and really raising sort of the amazing work that's happening in the classroom with our educators and students, and the impact of that. But that vulnerability in recognizing the work that we have done has met a certain threshold of excellence, but that it then creates this excitement around the opportunity to just lift that even higher. And so I appreciate the message, and I do believe that that's going to result in the community kind of understand and recognizing, how the budget, how these things need to be funded and how that all works together, because it's a lot of my time, my tenure here on the school committee, not a lot of it, some of it has been sort of showcasing all the stuff and then hiding behind the curtain the work that needs to be done. And there's nothing embarrassing or nothing shameful about sharing the areas that we need to improve upon. And that's how we're going to grow, because we've got to we've got to capture it. That's what I say, but we've got to put a sign to it. I don't know, hang a sign on it, because if we don't do that, those changes and that progress is not going to be made. So that's my 2 cents. I just really appreciate this presentation.
Well said, Mrs.
Thank you.
Mr. Nunes?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Boy, I'm not sure where to begin, but this was just excellent. And with a capital E, and underscored, highlighted, bold, whatever you want to call it, but this was an excellent presentation. And I thank you and everyone for this. I did make a couple of notes, and it was funny when talking about the summary achievement analysis, and I think it was Mr. Tebow was talking about the high needs group and such. And I go back to the budget presentation that you and Mr. Kiley made, and, there's a slide on the students, with the high needs and the low income and, special needs type of deal. So that, that was that there. When he talked about student achievements and, where we were, as a DOT district, and that if my memory and counting up is correct, in those schools that are here, there's 5 regionals, which means there's more than, per se, a town of Dartmouth or a town of Westport, or no disrespect to city, but, there's a regional that's coming into this. So there's more students that are being, more budgetary funds, and because we all know what regional schools have for budgets. But, I appreciate all this information. And I think it was Ms. Paveo was talking about the curriculum resources, specifically science. But again, that comes down to budgeting, the budget that we need, and, and I know it's been talked about, so I'm a broken record. And I apologize for that. No, I don't. I'm just going to talk about the fact that it's a budget issue, and that's what comes to play. But, when you look at this, and I appreciate everybody, that took the survey and, the collaboration that went on with this. So, nice job, congratulations, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Nunes. Mrs. Beckwith?
I know I'm new, so I haven't seen a lot of materials before, but I would say this seems like an enormous undertaking in a very short period of time. And so I'm really impressed with that, because you're focused on collecting data and thinking about the future while trying to do your day-to-day jobs. And so I think that's particularly impressive, to be jumping back and forth and presenting such quality information to us tonight, and to also be looking ahead and projecting into what the challenges will be and how we're going to face them and communicate them to our stakeholders. So I appreciate all of this information. As someone who's new to this, this is enormously helpful. So thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Coughlin?
Thank you. So I will say, Dr. Saber McGuire, I'm so happy that you signed a contract with us. I like the perspective of an outsider coming and needing to learn about our community, and that does help us learn about our community. And I've always known that our school system has been really highly regarded, and this shows that. And I have felt that we haven't put a sign on it, hung a sign on it for, we always talk about the positive percent and not the negative percent. And it is really important to see what we need to do. One column that I thought needed an addition was teaching and learning, which is why we're all here. I mean, everything else is integral, because if you don't feel safe, you can't learn. But in teaching and learning for our opportunities, we talk about curriculum. We don't talk about, and I'm sure it's because of our budget, but if we weren't talking about our budget, we wouldn't just talk about the curriculum. We'd talk about a need for more special instructors or more teachers. But that's the most expensive part of our budget. And I think that even though we can't afford it, I think we could say that that is one of our challenges, and it wasn't on that entry plan. But I think you highlight very well how we use our money very well, and that we do need a little more money because, as was said, our technology is funded by school choice, and that's not going to be available if we keep spending it the way we've spent it this year. But I think it's a very positive report, and I appreciate it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you all.
So I'll finish up here. My personal feeling on this is it's pretty simple. I think you did a great job, all of you, with the balance of highlighting everything that we do well in Dartmouth, but also highlighting, we're not going to say any negatives, but our challenges, the challenges that we're facing and we have faced over a number of years. And and of course, we throw COVID in there, you know, that was certainly a hindrance, to say the least. But it's that right balance, but at the end of the day, it's pulling the curtain up and taking the bull by the horns, right, and saying, we have some challenges, let's recognize them, let's see how we can address them, and let's move forward with them. One being, the number one piece being obviously the budget, right? But just a couple of notes that I have here. I love that you put, you know, one of the number one strengths, you highlighted dedicated staff under teaching and learning. That's our number one asset. To me, you know, I'm thrilled that that's recognized. One of the other pieces that I put, which I personally think is important, this kind of falls under family and community engagement. And this is taken from one of the slides. While our data has been, I actually said this, while our data has been examined and scrutinized, one piece that is not accounted for is that we need our parents to be partners in their students' learning, in their students' education. When I believe it was Mrs. Paveo that was talking about MCAS scores and benchmarking in you know, some of these high needs groups, there's only so much that we can do as a school. We have dedicated educators. We have a lot of resources in place, but in some respects, we need to get out there, and we need to. And I think the superintendent's forum was a perfect example of what we can do to engage parents. But we need to know, parents need to know that we need them to be partners in their students' education. I think that's so important. And then, like Mr. Noon said, the lack of access to high-quality instructional materials in areas such as science will likely contribute to student performance on the science, technology, and engineering MCAS exam. I agree. Funding is certainly a problem. We know, we've heard this for the past year and a half now, so I look forward to, where do we go? Next steps. So at that, I will ask you, what are your thoughts on next steps?
Well, I think, again, we're in the beginning stages of strategic planning. So we've had 2 strategic planning meetings. We have a great group that's coming in and helping us to facilitate that work. This plan, this report is going to inform that work. So that'll be something that we immediately reach out, and if we haven't already, to talk to Teaching Learning Alliance, because they've given us data in our groups. For, there are a few of you here that are part of that team, and we've actually already looked at some of that data in different ways, but at the same time, we want folks who are sitting there as part of that larger team to be able to grapple with that data and make some of their own determinations as well. So it's a balance of, here's what we found through everything that you've told us. And one of the things that I just want to make sure that I say right now is, we couldn't have done this report and collected all this data without the engagement of the community. The percent of folks who actually finished or completed the survey for us, the schools at the middle school and the high school, the commitment to providing student time to complete the surveys, how we went out and talked to teachers and asked them to complete the survey, and they did. You don't always get that kind of response from folks. Anyone who's given out a survey knows that, but because we had so much engagement, we were able to really collect an incredible amount of data that we believe was honest and authentic, and that is going to serve us well. One of the things that I know right now for next steps, high quality curriculum, it's there in the report. It was pretty, that was one of the, the first things that I noticed as a superintendent coming in here. And I have a curriculum background as well. I was chief academic officer in Brockton for a number of years, and that was my focus. I was so grateful to inherit Katie Paveo, who was incredibly passionate and recognized the same thing about that work, and she has done amazing work this year working with teams of teachers, so some of whom are in this room, who are doing the really good work of examining, looking at, and experimenting with literacy resources that ultimately we want to bring into the district. And yes, it's expensive.
And I'll just interject, and yes, we're using school choice funds.
We are using,
our curriculum.
We have dedicated school choice funds. But the school choice funds that we're dedicating to literacy, hopefully, again, Katie's leading that work, and lots of teachers are involved, and that's critical to us. So next steps is, we want teacher voice. But we have other areas. Literacy isn't the only area in the school district that hasn't had an opportunity to use, to look at, to use, to experiment, to find updated resources. It's pretty much K-12 here. And so right now our focus is obviously on early literacy, making sure our kids can read. That's of primary importance. And then we have other areas that school choice funds won't always be able to support. Curriculum should be looked at on a 5 to 7 year cycle. It shouldn't be like right now. This is what can happen if it's not part of a regular process that school, and Dartmouth isn't unique in that way. This isn't a criticism of Dartmouth. This happens in other school districts, but you have to keep up with it. Because what we were using for history books 20 years ago don't look quite the same as what our kids are learning right now. So we're doing the work. I think what comes out of strategic planning, what comes out of that work is going to be critical to moving the district forward.
Great. Well, once again, thank you. Thank you to your
Thank you to my
central
team,
office.
who are amazing.
Next up, under new business, 2024 summer sports camps. Dr. Saban McGuire.
Oh, that's me again.
That is you.
I'm talking to Mr.
It's really me.
It is you. I'm going to turn that right over to Mr. Kiley.
Thank you, Dr. Saban McGuire. So we're seeking authorization from the committee to operate our summer sports camp this summer for students entering grades 2 through 9. So we anticipate the camp will include baseball, softball, field hockey, flag football, basketball, volleyball, soccer, track and field, and a physical education games week. The cost would remain $80 per week for the 5-day weeks and $65 for the 4-day weeks. They're half-day sessions. It would run from June 24th through July 26th. The last year, we had 9 different sports offered, with 331 campers attending, so fairly well attended. Any profit that's earned from the camp goes to support our athletic programs or physical education equipment in the schools. Last year, the profit was about $3,800, so it's not insignificant, and obviously it's helpful for kids who have an opportunity to participate in the summer. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have and ask for your support.
Thank you, Mr. Kiley. Comments, questions from committee members?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Nunes,
Second?
second by Ms. Beckwith. Any other discussion? Chair hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Kiley.
Thank you.
Enjoy, have fun.
Yeah, it's a great program. Good opportunity for our students. All right, next up, last day of school for the 23-24 school year. Can't believe we're already talking about it, but
Me either. So if you remember correctly, we had a snow day this year.
we did.
And here is where we pay the price for having that snow day. So that does bring our last day to Monday, June 17th.
Any comments, questions?
That would make middle school graduation the 14th, the Friday night.
Friday night. Is there some kind of procedure in place for that
No,
usually?
it's normally like the
It's
day before.
That's right.
Oh.
That's right.
So it's the one time the 8th graders don't have to go to school the last day.
That's
You know.
nice.
So there's that. So Bess, get your speech ready. All 30 seconds of it.
On it.
Motion to approve the last day of school to be June 17th.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Nunes, second by Ms. Amaral. On the motion, any other
Just
discussion?
in all seriousness, with the caveat that if something comes up, it can be extended, God forbid.
God
you know,
forbid we
power-
have a
Power outages, townwide or something of that nature,
snow day.
Yeah.
A heat wave.
We've had them in May.
Yeah.
Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you for that, Dr. Saban McGuire. Next up, superintendent's evaluation update. I actually asked Dr. Saban McGuire if we could put this on the agenda, because I'm not sure where we had left off. I know you had gave us your goals at the beginning of the year.
Yes.
And typically, there's a mid-cycle for the first year, or a formative, and then the summative. So what are your thoughts? I'd like to hear from you, Dr. Saban McGuire, and then, I think all of us have, you've given us more than enough evidence, I think, already. So just formally, I just wanted to have this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, going back to the original goals, they were pretty straightforward. There wasn't really anything complicated about them. It was about doing the entry findings and moving into the strategic planning. So I feel like, we've made a lot of progress on that. It was my participation in new superintendent induction program. So I do feel like at this point, I could be able to hand you If you wanted it in some kind of format, that would be, I'd be interested to know. It's really up to you how you would like me to submit evidence.
I'm looking at you.
You're looking at
So what have,
What
it's
happened
been a
in the
couple of,
past?
it's been a couple of years now, I think,
Yeah,
because
because, well-
Dr. Gifford retired last year.
Yeah.
So,
And the year before, we did it, and she gave us, I think what we did is we picked, we as a committee, with her help, picked out a couple of topics.
Indicate-
Like areas
In
of.
the
Indicators.
areas that we were going to concentrate on type of deal, and that's what we went and we reviewed. And we took the committee's input,
yep,
we put it together, then as always, sat down with Dr. Gifford to present the findings, to make sure that she was okay, she didn't have any rebuttals or anything of that nature.
Yep.
And it was fine, and then in open session, we presented it,
so what is the committee's pleasure?
so. Again, if you want to do an informal review, or, you know, a mid-cycle review type of deal, I mean, this is, you know, Dr. Saber McGuire's first year. I know, like you said, I agree with you, she's given us oodles of a lot of information to go on and such, but if she wants to, you know, go through the superintendent evaluation and pick out a couple of topics that she would like us as a committee to focus on and bring that back to us.
One
I'm
of the
good
things
with
I
that.
could do is look at the way the superintendent goals were laid out, and then just sort of embed the links to the evidence that support
Yeah.
my work, our work as a school district toward those goals.
Yep.
Yeah, that certainly
So
works. We
it's
could-
work that's there, it's just a matter of organizing it
Yeah.
for you.
Would that work for everyone?
Yeah,
That
that
would work,
that
that'd
would
be
work for
fine.
me.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Put that
Yeah.
together and.
So maybe over that we can send out the evaluation to all the committee members
Yeah.
sometime in June.
Yeah.
That sounds great, yeah.
Yeah.
that's
That'll
fine.
get us through all the fun things that are ahead of us in the
Yep.
next couple
Yeah.
of,
Yeah, and then, you know, August, September, we can
great.
formally vote on it.
Yeah,
That sounds good.
So maybe
Thank you.
maybe September only because it's summertime.
Yeah, no, I have,
Yep.
In September,
That's
we
fine.
could make a formal, we could,
Yeah.
I guess it's
Me-
you and I, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
We can make a formal presentation to the school committee.
Okay.
Type of deal.
Sounds good.
Mr. Chair, just because there are a couple of new
Yeah,
people that are
absolutely.
involved in this, there's a number of different criterias that you go through type of deal, from needs improvement to perfection, or whatever that, okay,
exemplary.
exemplary, okay.
I like perfection.
There's no such thing as perfection.
Right, you know, I'd have to look at, but in all seriousness, one of the training classes that we took on that was the fact that, you know, if you say exemplary, you know, most of what you're looking for is proficient, okay? Because if you're sitting there and saying exemplary, it's like the superintendent has no place to go, and we kind of use it almost as a walking on water type of deal. So that's, but again, that is just so that you're aware when, and we can talk about this as it comes up later on in the process, but just a
Yeah.
food for thought later on.
Yeah,
Am I
yeah,
missing
they,
something?
no, that's right. They very clear with, you know, swaying, wanting folks to recognize that.
Yeah.
Just to steer you away from any desire to say, oh my goodness, she's done so great in that area. Because there's always room for improvement, and it would indicate that the work's done. You know,
We do like to talk about that as a culture of continuous improvement.
yes, I like that.
All right, so is everyone good?
Thank you, Chris.
Are you good?
I'm
you
good.
with that?
Yep, that's great.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you. Next up, school committee meeting schedule proposed. Dr. Saban McGuire?
So we did submit for your consideration some scheduled dates beginning June 24th and going through December 24th. Apparently, this has been the practice in Dartmouth for a number of years. One of the things that, Mr. Nunes, did you want to talk about something that you had pointed out?
Yeah.
as a potential
one of the-
conflict.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Saber McGuire. One of the things I looked at when I was looking at this, if you look at the November meeting, you have Monday, November 25th, and then Monday, December 2nd. That's, number one is back-to-back weeks, okay? And number two, a little bit more important, that November 25th is Thanksgiving week, which is 2.5 days, which becomes, for discussion purposes, a day and a half for central office to put an agenda together for the next
Right.
type of deal. So, I don't know, I mean, we normally, you know, for the most part, we normally meet once in December. You know, and again, I realized the past couple, and I wasn't here for a couple of them in December this year, but we normally only, this, you know, with budgets and everything else the past couple of years, but, you know, we normally only meet once in December anyway, you know, because of the holiday season and concerts and
Yep.
everybody's knee-deep in everything else type of deal. So, you know, maybe we just use, you know, Monday, December 16th.
So have the meeting on Monday, November 25th?
Have the November 25th and then have Monday, December 16th.
I'm okay with that.
That's fine.
That makes sense.
That makes sense, and we did have some discussion about it earlier, and if something were to come up, it does give us some flexibility to move some dates around if need be.
I just,
And do all the other dates work?
no, the dates work. I just
Emerald?
want to put on the record, as long as it's okay with the committee, I would have difficulty getting, I don't have the summers off, so I would have difficulty attending right at 5. I don't want to make that an issue and have the majority of the committee, you know, want to push it back. Maybe I just kind of nonchalantly walk in late a couple meetings with the understanding that it's due to, I don't want it to.
What would be the
curb-
earliest that you could be here? Is it still 6?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I could for those meetings, I could probably make it for 5:30, and even potentially a little earlier
I
than
don't want to
that.
exclude you because
Why don't we,
Well, you say 5:30. Or 6?
yeah, I mean, why don't we just make it 5:30, and if it's gonna, you know, if, you know, you get caught in
I
traffic.
hate to put a,
Just get caught in traffic, let us know. and
no,
we can-
5 is always tough for me too.
Yeah.
But coming from the Cape, but 5:30,
Okay,
okay,
a little
thank you.
earlier.
sounds great.
Perfect. Any other
won't- I will not be here June 24th.
Shame on you.
Did you want to tell everybody where
Unless
you
you
were
want to
going to?
move it to Glasgow,
Oh, yeah, nice.
or
Nice.
wherever I'm going to be in Scotland.
Oh, fantastic.
Very nice. So excellent. I'm glad we've taken care of that. And then just so you probably noticed from Ms. Genther that I had asked just to try to get us all on the same page with scheduling and having some standing budget subcommittee meetings and getting involved with policy subcommittee, that I asked if we could just start using calendar invites so they go out. So,
Loved it.
thank you.
Also, too, there was, one of them was, the first one in June 5th, I think, that Monday.
June 5th.
I don't know,
Oh, that's not even
hang
on
on,
here.
June 3rd. There was a school committee meeting scheduled for June 3rd, I think. Okay, that one, I'm away at a conference. I know that
Okay.
type of deal. I mean, I'm leaving right after graduation on Sunday, and that I am going to come back for town meeting on Tuesday. I'm going to bail out and come back Tuesday, but I won't be here on the Monday night,
Okay.
so.
But that was already scheduled. That wasn't part of this.
No, I know that wasn't part
Okay,
of this. I was
okay.
just thinking when you talked about the Google Calendar.
Perfect. Thank you for letting us know.
No problem.
All right, superintendent's update.
Okay, so I wanted to give you an update as to where we are in April, and I know this sounds cliche, but I think you talked about it too, Mr. Oliver. I'm amazed at how quickly this school year is passing by, and at the beginning of this year, somebody said that to me, and I thought, oh, I think it's going to be a long year, but it has been like a blink of an eye, but we're returning. This is going to be a little depressing for some folks, but that's the last vacation of the year until the summer break. And so we're gearing up for what I think is going to be an exciting close to the 23-24 school year. I'm really looking forward to participating and experiencing all the events that happen here in Dartmouth. I was able to participate in some of those last year, but it certainly will take on a different feeling. So I'm sure we're going to be sharing a lot with you in the coming 2 months. But again, under teaching and learning, a couple of things that I'll remind you or I'll bring to your attention. You know, MCAS testing now is like well underway. So all accounts, again, things are going well. I can't thank the school administrators, our teachers, our tech department, our technology supports in the schools for making sure that things continue to run smoothly, because you can see what can happen when technology goes haywire on you. If you paid attention to anything that has happened in the news in the last couple of weeks. Thankfully, that's not here. Is there wood somewhere? So as far as kindergarten registration, as I mentioned at the prior few meetings, it's well underway. At this point, I want to thank Jen, who's done such an Jen Machado has done such an outstanding job getting kids into the system as soon as she can, and really working closely with families who are new to this. Like, we had a family today, or a mom, who thought she had registered her child and she hadn't completed everything she needed to do. So Jen's been really diligent about reaching out and making sure that happens. At this point in time, we have 75 completed registrations. We have another 42 that are nearly completed, and 11 that have recently just begun. So that puts us at around 128 incoming kindergartners at this point in April. So we'll continue to work on that and get that word out, because as we continue to say, we need to know who the kids are. We need to get them assigned to schools and to classrooms so that we are just ensuring that we have the appropriate level of staffing. So, you know, we looked at, again, some of our numbers from last year, and last year for our kindergarten class was 239 students. So you can kind of see where we are in April of this year. So we know that there are more 5-year-olds out there ready to register for school, and we're just encouraging families to get that done as soon as they can. If they need help, again, that's our purpose at central office, to help people through that process. So you know about the open house. The other thing under teaching and learning, very important with tonight's entry report finding, coupled with Teacher Learning Alliance, we're really looking forward to developing a plan. And we expect that will take a number of months. It's not just something that will happen overnight, but throughout the summer, we hope to work on that. And in the fall, it should be at the start of the school year, we want to be ready to launch our strategic plan. And so I remind you, there are 37 people that are part of that, and from this evening's findings, what we want to message clearly is that there aren't only 37 people engaged in strategic planning. All of those folks that participated in those surveys and in those conversations, and just in general, those perspectives are there at the table during our planning. As far as HR is concerned, we've talked about the open early childhood director position. We do have several applicants. I know that interviews are being scheduled for early May, and hopefully we're going to find the perfect candidate, and we'll have somebody in place shortly thereafter, who then will, of course, invite here to school committee to meet all of you or to introduce themselves. So we're hopeful that that will take place before the end of the school year. Again, I mentioned spring sports well underway. Looking forward to getting to some games and seeing how the students are doing. And I'm also hoping that the weather warms up because that's the key to enjoying an outdoor sports game in the spring. But we do have 367 of our students who are participating in that. So again, that speaks to some of what we shared with you earlier. Also, we're looking forward to the upcoming Dartmouth High School production of Grease, which apparently is the hottest ticket in town.
I already have mine.
Oh, so if you don't have your ticket, you might need to know somebody, or you might just get shut out of that. And I know that, Mr. Nunes, I know at the end of this, you'll share how our band is doing in the comp, so I'm not stealing your thunder anymore. I've learned, it's taken me till April.
Please, you can do that. I'm fine. That doesn't bother me in the
No,
least.
that's yours. So I do want to mention, and Mr. Parati had shared some information with me today, which I'm thrilled that he is reaching out and sharing this with us, because other great things to celebrate around what's happening with Business Innovation and Technology Department here at Dartmouth High School. So there was a Credit for Life Fair. It was held on April 11th for the entire junior class. And that was about teaching students financial literacy around areas such as saving money, buying a car, and even writing a check, if there's even such a thing anymore. But again, financial literacy is something that we're hearing from a lot of young people that they believe need to become a bigger part of what we're offering in our schools around some of the content, because I've heard it actually from my own son, who bought a new car, and he said, "Why didn't you tell me that was a losing investment?" Because you have to actually have a car. But also, congratulations to the Super Smash Brothers esports team. They made the playoffs, 6 or 7 team seasons running. And then if they advance to the semifinals, they'll be off to Foxborough Stadium. I mentioned before the DHS TV media students are finalists for the State Department of Fire Services annual Burn Awareness Video Contest. And we have 2 students, Sierra Hart and Isabella Cardozo, who will be honored at an awards ceremony on April 30th at Shriners Children's Hospital in Boston. So that's quite an honor. And again, other students who are doing amazing things in Dartmouth. Also, DHS TV media students, they won honorable mention in the 2024 Boston New England Student Emmy Awards. They were recognized for the high school magazine program, the high school sports program, DHS Sports Center with Ben Smith was recognized, and the high school student editor award, Ava Cabral. So this apparently was the first time that they've entered into that contest. And we also have our Dartmouth High School computer teacher, Bridget Weinert, who has organized a group of computer science students to go off to UMass Dartmouth to tour the computer science department. And apparently there'll be participants in viewing some of the projects that the college students are producing around computer science projects that they've been assigned, and very well, I guess, well received. For the kids are super excited about it. The trip to Spain and Portugal, I'm glad to say that I saw all the students out front as I, went out to see them. They all look happy, healthy. There was a lot of really great energy. I'm inviting them in June, at our June meeting, to present about their trip, and I'm sure they'll be excited to participate in that. And so you'll be hearing much more about that trip, and we can all be jealous that, we didn't attend, but maybe we can be chaperones next year. We'll see. So that's about all I have for you tonight. So thank you.
I think that's quite a bit. Absolutely love hearing everything that's going on. Report of the chair, the only thing I have is, I'm sure some of my colleagues heard that our town administrator, Mr. McGinnis, has resigned. By the look on your face, you're not aware. His last official day, I believe, is July 15th.
Wow.
I was just looking at Dartmouth Weekly here. It was the story. So I just want to thank Mr. McGinnis for his work with us in the Dartmouth schools through over the past, I don't know, six years or so, I believe. But we wish him well in his next endeavor.
Where's he going? Does it say?
The Columbia Association, I believe, will begin his new position at Columbia Association on Monday, June 17th. Yes.
Oh, very
Yep.
good.
So
Congratulations.
we wish him well.
Yes, absolutely. That's good.
Start down there. That
Yeah,
end of
no,
the table.
I don't have anything to share. I just had, I don't, if I may, in terms of the early childhood director position, I don't know if there's a plan to, I don't know what that interview process is going to look like, but if there is an opportunity to pull in educators and parents as part of that.
There is a plan for that.
I was going to say, do I
Absolutely.
need to even mention? Yeah, so I think that's really important because
Good
it's an
point.
opportunity
That's
to
an
do some
opportunity,
good things
right.
for our littlest learners.
I don't know if Laurie snuck out, but yeah, we definitely have, and I know, Kim, you know, but I have spoken to Laurie, and there is parental representation, and there are educators who will sit on that team.
Excellent.
Good stuff.
Good stuff.
Fantastic.
Mr. Nunes?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just happened to catch the tail end of the Select Board meeting, and congratulations to Sean for being elected chairman again type of deal. But one of the things he came up with is having somebody, like we have, and it's me, but on the negotiating committees and that type of deal. And one of the things he was kind of adamant about, and I'm just kind of giving everybody a heads up, is that he wants somebody from the Select Board on our negotiate, I'm assuming when we start negotiating with teachers in a couple of years, or a year or so,
Oh, I heard
just-
that, yeah.
Yeah, he wants.
Next year.
Yeah, he wants that. You happen to mention the two students going up to Foxborough, and that possibility of just getting them here to introduce themselves and
Yep.
offer them our congratulations at our next
course.
meeting or something, just so we can do that. It's, again, we're here to talk about students, and I like to do that. Any more on the, and I apologize, I should have asked, when I had you on the phone this afternoon, I should have asked you this. But we had talked earlier about having the captains from the, both the fall and spring sport, I'm sorry.
I
the
actually,
Fall and
yeah,
winter sports.
I talked to Mr. Christofoli about that just this afternoon. They'll be at the May meeting.
Okay, thank you. And the past couple of weeks have been a little bit busy for our color guard and percussion. Our color guard just before April vacation went out to Dayton, Ohio, and they ended up 13th in their Scholastic Open class in the world.
Wow.
Type of deal. They were, they were consistent all weekend type of deal. The percussion was out there last weekend, and they ended up fourth Saturday night in finals in their class. So, and got back here at 2:45 this morning, so. No, I was not here. They were all set, and I went fine. I didn't argue, but, again, serious congratulations. So it kind of quiets down a little bit now, and they get ready for their spring concerts and things of that nature that are ongoing. And I understand there's some parades coming up in June, so they'll be busy.
Yeah.
So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nunes. Anyone else?
I don't have anything.
So I am on the Dartmouth Education Foundation now, and I just want to make sure everybody knows that the Spelling Bee is on May 14th, and everybody should go and watch because it's a lot of fun. I'm also become aware that in the past, the school committee has sponsored a team, and I didn't know if we were interested in doing that again, and that would mean each of us chipping in for that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
Great.
Let me know how much and
Yeah,
who
let
I
us
make
know
the
how
check
much
out
and-
to.
All right.
Who do I get it to? You. I know.
Well, it doesn't have to be me. I can give you an address.
That's fine.
And having some new members, you're welcome to form a team too. We used to have a team.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We had a
so
team for many years.
I'm a notoriously bad speller unless I can use this.
You and me both.
But
Yeah.
if there are
I
three
can't-
people who want to be a team, that would be great.
And I can't spell I in the first person, so.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. Yes.
Terrific.
let
Thank
us-
you all.
yeah, let us know how much.
Yes.
All right. The next regularly scheduled meeting of the Dartmouth School Committee is Monday, May 13th, 2024 at 6 p.m. right here in the Dartmouth High School Library Media Center, as well as via live stream at youtube.com/DHSTV Media. At this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Noon, second by Ms. Coughlin. On the motion, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye opposed. Motion carries unanimously. Meeting adjourned.
Good night, everybody.